chance of getting another plan at this corner, please?
I think Ash has gone to look for one.
Oh, thank
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Matlock and to this council meeting. You've got on top of the screen there, for those of you who haven't been here before, those who are not familiar with it, all the evacuation procedure. After 6 o'clock, we're not expecting a fire drill or anything like that tonight. Just to warn you. Thank you very much. Okay. First of all, I'd like to welcome Greg McGill from Derbyshire Police, who's going to talk on the topic that's been in the news fairly recently about unsolved burglaries in Derbyshire. Greg McGill, Greg, please.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me today. Hopefully, I'm sure all of you are aware of the Sunday Times front page from a month and a half ago that effectively said that the Derbyshire Dales hadn't had any burglary detections throughout 2017. Whilst not accurate, I'm not here to say that you've had lots and lots of burglary detections. There have been some. But I want to try and explain the context of those numbers if I can. So I'm going to go through, because I think there will probably be quite a few questions. So I'm going to give the context of that and open it up to the questions from yourselves. So the background to burglaries now within the crime county movement basically is that dwelling burglaries, so your house burglaries, are in with shed burglaries now. There used to be non-dwelling and dwelling burglaries. Now they're all in together. So the data that you saw in there is figures for shed breaks and house breaks. It's difficult for us to differentiate them in terms of pure performance figures now. So that happened in April 2017. Obviously within the Derbyshire Dales, 300 square miles of area, and Derbyshire itself has the lowest number of burglaries per 1,000 population. So the story kind of, to me, was led as if it's a burglary numbers issue. It wasn't. It was a pure detection issue. The Derbyshire Dales is still a safe place to work, still a safe place to live. Numbers of burglaries have decreased in Derbyshire. So that's important to know, I think. Like I say, we have a system called the National Crime Recording System, and without boring you with the detail of that, effectively what it means is, if I'm found in possession of this and I know it's stolen from a burglary and it's got my fingerprints on it, you may say, well, why doesn't that detect the burglary if I find you nearby? We will probably charge somebody with handling stolen goods for that. Handling stolen goods does not detect the burglary. So I could hit the target and miss the point, and I don't want to do that. So what we've changed our focus to is saying our CID teams, which you have one at Ripley, one at Buxton and one at Chesterfield, led by 3 detective inspectors. Their focus has changed to focus on the burglar instead of processing burglary crimes, because what we found historically was just processing crimes wasn't what the public wanted us to do. It wasn't yielding the results we wanted. So if I can give you an example of that, we had a guy who I won't name for legal reasons, but he was a burglar. And he was a cross-border burglar, so he was into Staffordshire, in Derbyshire. He was stealing quad bikes from rural areas, going into outbuildings and into people's houses. We knew that he was doing that, but evidentially we couldn't prove it. So we focused on him and his gang, and we charged them with theft offences. We remanded him and put him in prison. So the burglar's gone, hence the reason why you've got a lower detection rate in Derbyshire, because their burglaries aren't happening. But I don't get a tick in the detection box for that, is what I'm trying to say to you around burglaries. So I don't want to feel, I'm not playing with figures, that is genuinely how we have to focus now, because National Crime Recording Standards could change tomorrow. I don't want to be led by them, I want to be led by what I think people would expect me to do, and that is to focus on criminals. So, that being said, detection rates for burglaries are low, and I accept that people need to know who's broken into their house, who's broken into their shed. So we are working on ways of looking at things like legislation we can use around taking into consideration. So if we charge you with one offence, we may say to you, do you want to admit any others? And the court can take that into consideration in the sentencing. The problem we have with that is, if you increase the sentence of the individual, the likelihood is that they're never going to admit to anything. So it's a difficult situation around detections for burglaries. But what we can say is to people, we know who the burglars are, and we're charging the burglars, but we're not necessarily charging them with your dwelling break. And I guess that really is all I wanted to say on burglaries. I know I've gone through that quite quickly, but because I think there's going to be a lot of questions, unless I can go into more detail if people want it, but I just wanted to set the scene for you and take any questions.
Okay, who'd like to go first? So Councillor Chapman and then Councillor Mike Ratcliffe.
Thank you, DCR. Wouldn't it make more sense and be less controversial if every police force used the same statistics and interpreted the statistics the same way? Then Derbyshire wouldn't sort of stand out as being a problem when it isn't.
No, I mean Derbyshire itself, so why the Derbyshire police didn't stand out was the issue. It was within the Dales.
Sorry.
And because of the low number, there's less likelihood of detecting. So if you, statistically, if I've got 1,000 burglaries, I'm more likely to detect one. If you've only got 10, that's quite difficult to detect because historically you probably only ever get to detecting 10% of burglaries. So everybody does use the same standard. It's difficult for me to, and I'm not trying to spin it again, like I say, this is because of the Derbyshire Dales being safe and low numbers that it was highlighted as having no detections. You can't detect what didn't happen, is effectively what I'm saying. Like now, the Derbyshire Dales numbers of burglaries so far this year is down by 13, and that's shed breaks and house breaks. So you see what I mean? So everybody does use the same rules. National crime recording standards are the same for everybody.
Okay, Councillor Mike Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. Statistical percentages are notoriously misleading, so I accept that. The second comment just to make is that I hold no criticism of the police. I think they do a fantastic job given the level of resources that they have. However, I just want to bring to your attention, though I doubt if you will need it, that a recent national database figures release has shown that in the 12 months to March 2018, this year, there has been an overall rise of 11% in crime, and only 9% of crimes end with any suspects being charged. Now, my question is, first of all, do you feel that this is a result of the new accounting methods that you've just mentioned in relation to the Derbyshire Dales crime? And I just heard you say that some crime in Derbyshire Dales has actually reduced. So is the general picture for our constituency one of either stability or reduction rather than this national increase that we're reading about? And can I just make the final point and ask you what it is that we can do to support the EU and the work that the police do? Clearly there is a strong need for political intervention, if you like, or at least for someone to be saying that greater resources, both in terms of manpower and finance, needs to be made if we are going to make any significant inroads into the figures that I've just mentioned.
Yeah, so from a support perspective, we've obviously we increased the precept recently, which gives us an opportunity to recruit more police officers. So we're grateful to the community of Derbyshire for that. The comments that you just make will support us if you continue to speak about the police in the way you have done. Of course, any chief constable would want an increased number of officers. And I think we have that argument, and I think that goes on in the background through lots of different avenues. My job as a detective chief inspector is to work in the environment I work in now. And much as I wholeheartedly agree, if we could get more people, we would do more than we do currently. But we stretch our resources to make sure that we meet the risk demands. Is the reduction national? There is an overall increase in crime within police figures. I think that was against the British Crime Survey that said that crime has probably stayed static. I personally think that we are a lot more, as a police service, crimes are more accurately recorded, and I think that's the reason that it's gone up. But in Derbyshire, from a burglary perspective, we've bucked the national trend because we've had a reduction in burglaries. So there is a national increase in burglaries, and we haven't seen because of some of the changes that we've made internally. So, and I think does that cover all the points?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way you're confirming that actually in Derbyshire or in Derbyshire Dales, we're against the national trends of increase.
Yeah, still lots to do, and we don't rest on our laurels like that. You're right. Statistically, you can make figures fit what you want to, but it is statistically significant to say that we've bucked the national trend for burglaries that are occurring. We'd love to detect more.
Councillor Price.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for coming and speaking to us today. I'm afraid I'm not as positive about your burglary figures as you seem to be, purely because obviously as councillors we get out there and we talk to the public, we talk to our constituencies, and we talk to the people every day. Due to the difficulties the police have, we have seen a massive reduction in safe neighbourhood team resources. A lot of safe neighbourhood officers are off long-term sick, so we have very, unfortunately in Derbyshire Dales, certainly in my area, we have a very sketchy safe neighbourhoods team. The upshot of this is unfortunately people aren't reporting the burglaries to you anymore, I'm afraid. That's not to say I think what you're doing with catching the crooks at a higher level is fantastic. So it's almost a perception that the public have now worked themselves into. It's not worth reporting. I could give you 5 cases now of break-ins in lockups. A friend of mine had something like £1,000 worth of meat stolen from his freezer. He thought it wasn't worth reporting. I said to him, please report it. They can't do anything about it if you don't report it. But his reaction to me, unfortunately, was nothing will be done. So I appreciate it's incredibly difficult for you to manage that perception, and it's not a perception that you've encouraged in any way, it's just something that's happened. But I suppose my question is, how, obviously, I will continue to tell people to report to the police, I will continue to tell people to feed intelligence to the police, but if the police aren't there, we can't do it. We're seeing a reduction in face-to-face policing, really quite drastic, and I understand why, better than most in this room. But we need to try another approach to get people to report, and putting everything on the phone line isn't working, I'm afraid. So it's really a question of, I appreciate you can't make huge strategic decisions, but what would you like to see happening to try and address those issues that we're seeing?
I can. It's quite timely that you mentioned that. So I'm the serious inquisitive crime lead for Derbyshire Police. So in terms of reporting, I would encourage people to report. You're not wasting our time by reporting those type of offences, even if it does show a more broader intelligence picture, and we never catch the people responsible. It shows the intelligence picture, it shows potentially the resources that we actually need to deal with the criminals, the backdrop of that. Just to take the point about reporting, and I accept there are large proportions of the community that would prefer a face-to-face reporting system. You understand the reasons why, I get that. But Crime Stoppers this week have introduced a rural crime reporting online website that people can go to, which I like the idea of that, because it's a Crime Stoppers reporting, can be anonymous. Even if we got the people that think they're wasting the police's time, we'll report it to the rural crime reporting line on Crime Stoppers. We will get that information, but it might well be that it's anonymous. So if we were a police service that didn't want reports, and we wouldn't open lines like that. So please go back to your communities and say that, because, and obviously to all of you, there are different ways. I understand the frustrations of trying to contact people on the phones, great face-to-face, but again, in the environment we are now, we're having to be smarter about the way we're doing business. But there are those avenues available to people.
Councillor Murphy.
Hi. Thank you, Chairman. I'm thinking about the victims of these crimes with this question. In relation to the burglaries, how are victims ever going to get closure when there seems to be so many of these crimes not solved? Research has shown that many people live with the trauma of these break-ins for many years, knowingly and unknowingly. I realise that's a hard question to answer. And just to follow on from that, of all the burglaries that are reported, how many of those percentage terms does a police officer go to, or at least the forensics?
Right. Okay. So I'll do the reporting part first, if that's okay. So every domestic house burglary, a police officer will attend. The police officer then will assess the need for forensics. So they may say there's blood at the scene, there's obvious fingerprints, and then forensics will go. Forensics don't automatically go to every report of every crime. We have to assess them. So officers are trained in what to look out for, and the police officers, they know what to look out for. So for every house burglary, you will receive a police officer at your door to take that report. If a line of inquiry that's likely to lead to the suspect is found, then a detective will investigate that burglary. So burglary is still very important to us. I would say that in the serious twisted crime league, but it is important to us. In terms of the victims, I have to say that was the driver for me changing things internally, because I do feel I've got to give the victims something, and I accept the fact that we're not able to tell all victims who's committed your crime. And that was the driver for me. I've had it in my family where burglaries have occurred, and I think the police officers, a Great Manchester this was, and the police officers did a fantastic job in victim care. They never caught the burglar, but actually gave that reassurance. The reassurance I want to give extra is, whilst all that's going on, in the background I want people to understand that we are focusing on the people we believe are doing it. We're intelligence-led, and just because we can't come to you and say such and such is the person responsible and you're going to get your day in court, which we will try to do as well, but if we can't do that, we are behind the scenes targeting these individuals that we know are doing it. And the final point on that is that it is a small percentage of people. So that's the reason why we say focus on the people that we know have the audacity to break into people's houses. Because with integrated offender management systems, with the probation service, with all of our partners, we will know who these people are. We may not know that you did it at 23 High Street, wherever, but we do know you're a burglar, and we're going to deal with it. Hopefully that gives you some message.
I was just going to say, in extreme cases, I know people move home once they've been burgled because one or the partners just can't live there anymore, and sort of the price of it's very difficult to see, really.
And this is where, when we talk about assessing risk and what's high risk within policing, that person that can't live in their house any longer, in the more extreme cases, the people that develop ill health as a result of it. Certainly, you'll see that within the more elderly victims. I understand the impact of that, and that is a driver with all of the work that my team does on that, because that's the key to it, really. It's if your house is broken into and you're not in, it doesn't mean it's not a victimless crime. And that's the truth. Sorry, it doesn't mean it's a victimless crime. The victim doesn't need to meet the burglar to have an impact on them. So I get that.
Thank you. I've got 5 more speakers, and I'm going to cut it there because we've got lengthy debates going on later tonight. Councillor Massey Bloodworth, please.
Hi. You say that the numbers,
Please.
that the numbers of burglaries have gone down, but this is not my experience. I mean, one of the villages in my constituency, burglaries have gone up this year quite substantially. I mean, they had 2 in one night, I think it was last week. And it's not a particularly big village. So, I mean, is this a case of burglars are moving into small villages rather than the outlying towns? Or is it, as Councillor Wright said, that people just aren't reporting it? And so what can we do to combat it?
Yeah, okay. So, well, I think we spoke before about the 2 sets of statistics nationally, which will say there's an 11% increase in crime, and the British Crime Survey will say that it's actually static. I think what you're alluding to is that actually it's that static British Crime Survey, because you speak to the people. And I absolutely accept that. Statistics aren't what I want to talk about, really. I want to talk about victims and what you're finding locally. So I accept that these things, I know that these things happen, of course they happen. What can we do? One of the things that we've started to do is make better use of Neighbourhood Watch. So more recent, only yesterday, signed off the new flowchart, if you like, for the process of dealing with a burglary offence. That's not an investigation plan, but it means that we're putting things in place to be able to say, let's use these services out there to be able to target the areas and give support to the victims. So Neighbourhood Watch has got a big part to play. They do a fantastic job for us. We need to give them more information that they can support them. But when you look at, so are they coming to small villages? No, because your numbers would be bigger if they were. I worked in the old B division for a long time, so I know this area as a police constable and as a sergeant. No, it's more difficult to come. You may think it's easier because it's a village location. It may be to some degree, but generally speaking, in villages, people look out for each other more and notice differences. In the city centres, of course, you can blend in, and that's a completely different set of circumstances. So we have cross-border criminality. We have people that will come in from Sheffield. We're surrounded, aren't we, by bigger cities, but we have our local people as well. So we're alive to that. We have road policing teams around the county that are alive to that. So no, I don't think anything's changed in terms of village location. It doesn't feel to me like it.
Okay, great. Behind you, Councillor Monks.
Hello. I'm rather echoing Councillor Massey Bloodworth here, but yes, certainly in my area, my constituents are most concerned that crime is going up exponentially, and they want to know from you, what are you doing for the rural community? We're feeling very, very isolated and vulnerable. Could you please tell us what you're doing for the rural community?
Yeah, no. So I think you say about police officers retreating from rural communities. We are working with other agencies to try to anchor us into these areas. So with the fire service, you're going to get those joint buildings and places that we have. For the rural community, you have your rural crime team over at Matlock. There's very specific rural crime that you'll get, and certainly some wildlife crime and those things. But from a reassurance perspective, local communities, sorry I'm talking with my back to you, but I do understand that if you're in a city, you're more likely to see a police officer, a security guard, a PCSO, something like that, and it magnifies the issue more in the rural community. But we are not retreating for rural communities. We're just not. We are being more innovative about the way we do things. We need to do more to reassure you. I'm not going to be able to reassure you wholly with that tonight, but I need to think about how we can do that, because I am hearing that a lot, obviously, from around this room. And how we do that, I'm open to your suggestions as well, because I think it's more about reassurance from my perspective than it actually is about the investigation of crime and the prevention, because it's just that we need to focus more on the people.
Thank you. Councillor Pauly.
Yes, sir, I'd like to thank you for coming and giving me this chance to speak to you. I'm very pleased to hear you say the word prioritise. I'm glad you're doing that, because obviously your resources have gone down an awful lot, and that's obviously a sensible thing to do. And to emphasise the fact that the public should be reporting as much as they can. Now, what I want to know is, what do you do in a situation where the public have reported over 2 years, parish councillors particularly, have reported a crime which I consider to be quite high priority. And I suppose you would say priority rests on the nature of the crime and the number of times it's happening. I presume those two are quite up there. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how you do it. But anyway, if you've got a crime that's happening over and over and over again and continues to happen, even though you've taken on board the number of times it's been reported, and you've had officers out there who've done some investigation, but it's quite obvious that what you need is an awful lot more investigation, almost like an undercover surveillance, in order to catch people. You haven't got the resources, and that's going on. All I'm talking about here is drugs, and drugs near young children. What do you do? What do you do?
I guess, I don't know, you forgive me for this, because tactically I wouldn't say what we do on drugs operations in a public meeting, but so from a drugs perspective, I know you're obviously talking about an individual case, and I don't know the details of it. Yeah. So if I take what's just happened in Derby, for example, Operation Halifax was an intelligence gathering exercise where we enforced recently and made, I can't remember the number of arrests, but there was over 50, 60 arrests made. Periodically we build up intelligence for drugs, because actually what we want to do now is focus more on the organised criminality of it. So we have organised crime units, we have drugs mapping that we look at where the intelligence is, and then what we tend to do is try to strike like they've just done an Op Halifax. So local issue, your safer neighbourhood teams have the ability to do that. We have.
You haven't got one.
There are safer neighbourhood teams. Whether or not you've physically got them, there are officers assigned to it, is what I mean. But regardless of that, depending on, it's difficult for me to say, but there's different levels of what we would do. You seem to be saying that it's an ongoing issue that clearly needs addressing. We have, I'm a member of the command team for this division. We have tactics and options available to us to be able to deal with it in some of the ways you suggested around undercover policing and those like. So everybody knows that the police can use those tactics, so I'm not giving any games away, but if you want to tell me what it is maybe outside of this, then I can look a little bit closer at it, because I guess.
I've got your name, so I'll email.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for coming along. Good evening.
That's fine.
My question relates to Derbyshire and nationally. Previously, well, over the last few years, we've seen changing faces. We never see, in my district, we never see the same face of a policeman. They seem to be floating about from one area to another, but they never seem to be stable in one area like they used to be 10 years ago. I do appreciate that numbers of police have dropped, and that may account for a lot of it, but previously a policeman, I can remember 10 years ago, used to be more or less permanent in the Wirksworth area. He built up a rapport with the community, he gathered information, he came to parish council meetings, town council meetings, and he got a good rapport with the community, and he built up intelligence, of course, from all this. That seems to have disappeared now completely. And do you believe this reflects the poor detection rate of some of these crimes today?
I think if we're intelligence-led, and what you're saying is we've removed an intelligence strand of policing. So against the backdrop of all of these years of austerity, of course, it's going to have an impact, and that is inevitable. But again, I was a safe neighbourhood constable myself in Whaley Bridge, in High Peak. So I understand exactly what you're saying. That people feel they can go to an individual, I understand that. But again, I can't sit on my hands and just blame austerity and say, if you gave us more people, of course we would do more of that. So yeah, give us more people and we'll do more of that. But at the minute, I have to find more innovative ways. So it is that thing about, if you've got information, go to Crime Stoppers, feed the intelligence into us one way or the other. Don't suffer because of austerity, I guess. I don't, because actually I'd hate for people to, if you're unfortunate enough to live in this period of austerity, then actually that's, actually we need to do something about it. So we need to still carry on. We can't just say, well, it's austere time, so that's the excuse and we'll live with it. No, we've got to get on with it. So if we can use these other methods, great. Let's get the intelligence in and we will deal with it, because we're always wanting intelligence to be able to deal with these things.
Well, do you think resources would allow to bring more community police back like you used to?
Currently,
because I think your detection rate and improved capacity probably pay off in the long term.
Would it do if we had more resources to do it? Yeah, 100% it would do. Of course it would. But yeah, and there's not going to be a police officer or senior police officer in the country that said they wouldn't do more with more police officers. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. But currently, when we talk about aligning officers to risk, some of the risk that we manage, that we need to look at, and I accept that different people's perception of risk is different. But there's some really, really impacted crime that we've never had to deal with before. And that's the reason we've had to do what we've done with the numbers that we've got. And that's the reason we've had to ask people to increase the contribution to the precept. But it's always going to be important to communities to know who their local police is, because we've been part of your communities for so long, and we're not going away, we're just doing things differently.
Okay. Thank you. Final two questions. Councillor Tivenham.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned that if there was a house burglary, then there would be a response to it shortly afterwards.
Yeah.
Can I ask you what the tradition is regarding business premises burglaries? And can I give you a couple of examples, please?
Yeah.
One business premise is broken into 3 times in 3 months. Yeah. No response. The following week, a delivery van delivered something to the owner's house, and his Jack Russell nipped the delivery driver. Next day, 2 policemen at the house. The second quick one, property stolen from behind a business premises in Hathersage, which is under the surveillance of cameras from the adjoining bank. Reported, no response, reported, response 2 months later, by which time the camera film had gone, and we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Over to you.
No, serious positive crime lead and business crime lead for the force for my sins. Business crime nationally is on the increase, so I see I get what you're saying. We obviously, because of the resources we've got, we have to focus on certain areas. One of the areas is that we will make sure we attend a dwelling house burglary. You're right, we won't necessarily get a physical response. There'll be an officer assigned to investigate, but whether you get a response on the day, you may not accept that. But if business crime is on the increase nationally, and if it isn't just a statistical issue, and it doesn't sound like it from your perspective, you're seeing it as an increase, then we need to look at how we can do that in this complex world that we're dealing with, different risks and different demands. So there's things that we can do to assist businesses. There's things, we work with the National Business Crime Centre, which is obviously a national body that I link into, to be able to assist businesses in assisting themselves in that respect. But again, we can't be everywhere at the same time with all of the things that we've got to do. So we are there to support businesses that are major businesses. Clearly we work with them, they can employ security and the like that they do, but local businesses that can't afford those things, I think we just need to think about how we can better support. I haven't got the answer for that at all, and I know it's a national question that we're trying to wrestle with. So,
thank you.
Sorry, I can't give you that.
And Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Chair. Well, thanks for coming, Greg. I think our brief conversation before we started, I think we're on the same plane, or level playing field from where we're coming from, and that is that when I was in the police, you seem to say have the same dedication, and that's to lift the criminals off the street, irrespective of what label you put to that crime. So that's good to hear. What concerns me, though, and this is a national concern, and sad to report, being an ex-England police officer, that for 2 decades now, the police have had such bad press. As you're hearing tonight, officers failing to report burglaries and crime. I'm supporting what Councillor Hall says over there with that drug incident, because it's been going on for over 2 years. And that's my word, so I'm concerned about that. And we're not getting that response. So I'm concerned that there is a crisis of confidence in the police. As you know, Sir Robert Peel set the police force up for the community, to be in the community, for the benefit of the community. And I'm sad to say that's not happening now. And there's a number of reasons for that. Over the past 3 decades, there's been different acts of Parliament brought in, which have tied the hands of the police behind the back, as you know. And I touched upon briefly in a group meeting the other night. The cuts have affected badly. The worst scenario was 3 years ago when they shut the police station doors, locked them. That completely divorced the police from the public. So that's why there is this crisis of confidence. Councillor Ratcliffe asked, what can we do? Well, I'm sorry to say, but our political masters in London over the past 3 or 4 decades have pulled the rug from under the police on too many occasions. And it's time to put that rug back. So that's what we need to do. We need to impress upon our own MPs that the police need support. Crime is different now, society is different now, but the game is still the same. These officers need to support, our support, they need the public support, but sadly, you've lost the eyes and ears of the public, and that's what needs to be brought back down.
I know it's not a question, it's a comment. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Greg, thank you very much for coming tonight. It's been very lucid with your comments. Thank you very much, and safe trip home. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, we have got a pretty lengthy agenda tonight. I'll tell you now that we're actually going to defer several items. That's 13, 14, and 15, which we can put on to our September meeting, just to say that 13, 14, and 15 will be deferred until September. We are also being recorded, as you know. Jim's got the camera over to my left, so just to make sure that's clear to everyone. Apologies, please, Jackie.
Yes, Chair. Apologies tonight from Councillors Susan Hobson, Tony Millward and Mark Salt.
Thank you very much. Public participation. Thank you for being so patient. Those of you about to speak. First of all, we've got Mr. Robin Greenwood. If you could take to the mic, please turn it on. You're going to make a statement on the proposal of motion B on the closure of the public conveniences at the Hall Leys Park play area. When your time is 5, isn't it? 3 minutes, sorry, 3 minutes, sorry. When it's 2 minutes 30, we'll warn you. Thank you, Mr. Greenwood.
Thank you. My name is Robin Greenwood. I live on New Street in Matlock. My daughter Layla, she's old enough to vote, but sadly is not able to express her opinion. I'm sure she'd have a lot to say. I'd like to speak to you in connection with the motion that is coming up later to stop the proposed demolition of the toilets at the Children's End of Hall Leys Park. And I'd like to think that I was an advocate for all of those children who use or who can't now use those toilets, but would if they could. In this weather particularly, there are hundreds of children down there, and adults too, who would benefit from there being more than just one pool to do. I have a petition here with 400 signatures that I collected within a few hours, and only one person was too busy to sign it. Everybody else asked to sign it straight away. So I believe that I'm speaking for the people of Matlock and the people who come to visit Matlock when I say that these toilets should be saved. Now I understand that this council is saying that it has to spend its money on things that it's legally obliged to spend it on, and it doesn't have the resources to spend it as much as it might like to on other things. And I understand that the cuts in grant from central government are in the region of 30% or more. The morality of that's a different question. What I would like to see is that these toilets are safe. My understanding is that Matlock Town Council can raise a precept if it wishes to be able to improve these toilets and to maintain them. And I would like you to give them the opportunity to make sure that the people of Matlock and the children who use these toilets can continue to do so. They were erected under public subscription, and the people of Matlock clearly consider that toilets are something that they're willing to pay for because they paid for them to be built. And I think that they would be happy to continue to see them there for the children and the adults of Matlock and visitors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The second, the second speaker tonight is Councillor Vicky Rains on behalf of Townsley Parish Council to ask a question in relation to the Section 106 agreement for the Old Coach Road Townsley and make a comment about a health threat. Mrs. Rains, you know the procedure.
I've actually got two things. I'm hoping to get them both in 3 minutes.
Good luck.
Recently, one of our local GPs wrote to the local press highlighting additional £7 million was required to accompany new homes in Matlock. It is noted that a new health centre is being built in Darlydale and Ashbourne has an up-to-date hospital and surgery. However, there has been no provision of land in Matlock for the expansion of healthcare facilities, particularly GP practices. Could you explain why you have allowed this to happen, bearing in mind you are responsible for sustainability? My second question is about your agenda tonight. The Section 106 agreement since 2010, page 21, paragraph 5, section 5.2. Invoices issued 1st of April 2017, Old Coach Road, Townsley, affordable housing, £61,575. Invoices remain unpaid, ditto, £61,575. It is known that 2 market houses were built on the Coach Road many years ago and the developer had to contribute to Section 106 because the land was outside the settlement. Is this the same land? Please confirm or otherwise that money has still not been paid. We are not aware of any building at this location for many years. We'd like to know the date the houses were built, the application number and the developer. For actually too long our village has been you've ignored conditions on planning applications. Derbyshire Dales have turned a blind eye and not enforced. Bearing in mind, West Yard, Thatcher's Croft is still not finished, no street lights and pavement's not finished. But I'm very interested in this affordable housing, please, if you could help me on that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rains. I think Councillor Rose would like to make a response.
He's going to do his best. I hope Mrs. Rains would kindly let us have a copy of that question,
yes,
because there's no way I could take down all those questions in one way. But to get to the gist of the 2 questions you asked about contributions to the healthcare sector, it's something the council took very seriously during the local plan consultation process, and those members of the local plan advisory committee will remember that we debated time and time again trying to engage with the CCGs and get an answer out of them. And time again we failed to get any meaningful response at all. And I think that is a tragedy. I'm well aware of what Dr. Peter Holden said about, the fact this hasn't happened. But, it's his sector that hasn't engaged with the council to, let us know what they want. Now, in the recent controversial decision, which I know Councillor Spendell keeps reminding me of, for the quarry, there is quite a substantial healthcare contribution in that one. And also in the one in Townsley for White Leys Lane. So, we will seek these things when we get the proper engagement from the CCGs. We just can't impose a healthcare contribution when we haven't been asked for one. We can't just whistle it out of the air and say, you've got to give X for this, and Y for each house towards the doctor's surgery, whatever it is. So, we seek everybody's help on that, but we do need better engagement. Now, whether this will happen when the 4 CCGs in Derbyshire come together as one body as a proposal to do, I don't know. The jury will have to be out on that. Now, back to the situation at Townsley and the unpaid affordable housing contribution, which we mentioned, I'm going to give you an answer that neither I like or you like, and particularly as a lawyer, because it is still a live legal matter, and the District Council hopes to recover the money owed. So I can't actually give you any more information about that matter at this time, because that's been sub judice. But I have asked officials to make whatever information is available as soon as possible once the matter has been concluded, and I'm told it will not be long before it is concluded. So I'm sorry about that, Mr. Rains. I'm not able to give you the sort of answer I would like to.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rose. And the third speaker is Ms. Jackie Drew on behalf of the Doveridge Neighbouring Steering Group to make a statement relating to the Doveridge Neighbourhood Plan, which is item 18 on our agenda. Ms. Drew, you have 3 minutes, please.
I'm Jackie Drew, and I am the chair of Doveridge Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group. My colleagues are here with me this evening. We're hoping that later on this evening Doveridge Neighbourhood Plan is going to be made by you, the council. 3 years ago, 10 unsuspecting and naive people in the village agreed to volunteer to make a neighbourhood plan. We had no idea whatsoever what we were undertaking. We have worked solidly for 3 years, meeting most weeks of those 3 years, I have to say. It has been an onerous task. We started off as complete lay people. We are now quite good planners. We've gathered a lot of expertise along the way. We've had the total support of the people in Doveridge. It's been very much a village exercise. When we had the referendum, nearly 40% of the village turned out to vote, and we had a 92% yes to the neighbourhood plan. So it's been a huge event for the village, and I'm much looking forward to telling them tomorrow that we now actually have a legal neighbourhood plan. We're hoping that that plan is going to protect our village in the sense that it will steer the way the village is developed in the future. We certainly hope it will, after all this work. My main purpose for coming here this evening is actually to thank some people. We have needed some expert knowledge along the way, and I had my first meeting with Mike Hayes of the planning department 3 years ago. He did warn me, but I didn't listen. I have referred to him throughout the process, and latterly Tanya Roundtree, who came in when Mike was taken ill, has actually been a wonderful help to us. She has expedited the process through the examination stage, through the referendum, and even turned up for the count, which we thought was beyond the call of duty. So I'm here to offer those people the thanks of the village, the thanks of the neighbourhood plan team, and I would like that formally noted, please. It's been a long process. We hope it's going to be a worthwhile one, and that it will do the job for which it was intended. And I'd just like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 3, approval of the minutes of the previous meetings, the 31st of May. I so move it. Councillor Shirley? Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Interest. Are there interests that haven't been notified beforehand, apart from the standing ones? None noted tonight. Thank you very much. Item 5, leaders' announcements. Councillor Rose.
I'll be brief, Chairman. I have circulated a letter that I've written in response to the Derbyshire Clinical Commissioning Group, who informed the CVSs that they intend withdrawing all funding that they provide to voluntary sector from November in this year as part of their plan to save about £80 million a year across the county. These plans will impact severely on health-related services provided by the voluntary sector. within the Dales, it will mean a lot of services directly aimed at some of our most vulnerable residents.
Yeah.
It will also lead to a lot of jobs and volunteering opportunities. Now, CVS were only given a 3-week consultation period for these proposals, which expires tomorrow. And whilst they were probably expecting and planning for a 10 to 20% funding cut, they were taken completely by surprise by a 100% cut, and now are doing their best to lobby against the proposals. So they asked the District Council, would we write a letter in support to the CCD, try and persuade them to reconsider the wholesale cuts, and obviously we couldn't bring this to committee, so I thought we certainly write a letter, and it's been written with great help from Tim, I have to say. I'm taking credit for all the facts to them to make our position clear, and we have pointed out that, you know, our procedures for consultation are much longer. They might be criticised, but they are much longer. And where we have imposed cuts, we've given a year's notice, and they've only been limited to a sort of 10% approach, which, you know, people can cope with better than 100%. So that's the action taken, and a copy letter has been sent to all members. We'll let you know what transpires. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chairman's announcements. Councillor Moss.
I just want to say, I think Tony will agree with me that it is such a privilege to attend so many events and functions that happen in our area and in the county in general. And I'd also like to remind you that there are 1 or 2 events coming up for my charity. There's the swimming pool event, and then there's the vineyard visit, and on the 7th of October there'll be my civics. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 7, to receive the non-exempt minutes of the committee shown below. I'll move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Donnelly. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. And minute book to follow. Item 8 is questions. We've got one from Councillor Slack. Can I take that as read? Please, Councillor Rose.
I think Councillor Slack will know that this matter was discussed at a recent committee meeting, but just to reiterate the fact that we have commissioned Pneumonia Research and Consultancy Limited to support the waste review project team by providing an options appraisal of possible delivery models. Now, this work has only recently started, and all options will be considered. As outlined in the report to the committee... Sorry.
I think Councillor Slack can't hear you. Could you just move it a bit closer? So, thank you.
I think I'm politely saying you ought to know the answer, Councillor Slack, because it was all in a committee report to the committee meeting on the 12th of July. But basically, there are going to be member workshops in September and October when Pneumonia Research and Consultancy Limited will be assisting the waste review project team in coming up with options, and all options will be considered, including the one you've mentioned.
Okay, Councillor Slack, did you want?
Yeah, just a quick supplementary, Chair. Yeah, thank you for your reply, and I'm pleased to hear that this option will be considered with other options, but I hope you take on board what's happening all over the country at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to item 9. In my time we haven't had motions, rule of procedure 16, but great time to have a couple tonight. So motion A, we go straight into debate with the proposer, so Councillor Bull.
Yeah, I would like to propose the notion of making us aware that the marking of this year, 2018, is the centenary year of the suffragettes' fight and suffering for the right for some women to vote, and it is a great milestone. And that's since 1928, when the People's Act came in, which has led to all women, including myself, the right to vote and be voted for, so as to be involved in the evolution of our councils. And we celebrate the deeds and words of the suffragette movement, which has contributed in the shaping of the Derbyshire Dales District Council as we have it today. But I would just like to mention also that we do not forget that not all women in the world are recognised as equals, and I hope that the future continues to fight so this can happen.
Thank you, and I believe that's found a second with Councillor Pawley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm very happy to second this motion. We will all be celebrating that great change in the rights of women. The right to vote was an amazing achievement, but the right to think was an even greater one. The process which led up to the right to vote entrenched in the lives of women the notion that if they had something to say, they could express that forcefully, without shame and with no worries that what they were saying was meaningless. Women today are the inheritors of that great treasure in this country, of course. That is why I have great pleasure as a female district councillor to endorse this motion.
Thank you very much. Have I got anybody? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I also support the motion, and I think it's brought women a lot of respect down the years, as well as the right to vote. I mean, many of us in this room, I am sure, have all used our vote from the day we got it. There are still a lot of people out there, women out there, who don't, and that is disappointing. But we look at this council, it does have a reasonable amount of women councillors. And I think we are about a third, which isn't brilliant, but it's not bad. If we look to the central Matlock area, the 2 wards in Matlock have 4 women councillors and only 2 male councillors. So I think that's something I don't know whether we should be proud of or not. I would say to the south, you know, you are very lacking on women and you need to encourage more women councillors. But that said, it is something very remarkable that took place, and we should be very proud to acknowledge it. And having said that, we must try to ensure that Derbyshire Dales maintains a balance of both male and female staff and councillors. While I endorse what's been said and welcome women being able to do what we can do, we must never try to take out the proportion of there being both male and female on bodies, whatever they represent, because at times we do look at things differently, and that is what is needed out in the world today.
Anybody else who'd like to comment? Oh, sorry, Councillor Tony Morley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's no secret that I'm a big fan of women in business, and I just keep, and I won't stop because it's a matter of fact. And one of the things, this saying a woman's place is in the home, right? If you look at a home, look at the skills you need to run a home. You need budgeting skills, you need time management skills, and most of all you need negotiation skills, because, ladies and gentlemen, as we know, the world's best sales force are kids, and mums have to negotiate them with them every day. So you may be interested to know that 90% of all the buyers for Harrods, Asda, Sainsbury's are all women. They go actually looking after them because they are the world's best negotiators. So well done, ladies, and keep it up. Oh, another thing, just answering that question, I think my other half is so fed up of hearing me talking about council work, she's decided to stand next time if she's selected. So if she's selected and then she gets the seat, then watch out.
Councillor Irene Ratcliffe.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to say anything, but actually I have to say something after Councillor Morley's just said what he said. Appreciating the skills that we need to nurture children and our homes, etc. That's for everybody to do, and that's what I've experienced, of course. And things have changed, and they've changed because people fought for the vote, and we need to get everybody to vote. This council has been very good at getting people out to vote, but the young women need to come out, the young men need to come out, and we need to put both sides together. There's no difference in that sense of what we come. We bring various skills, but really today, with your motion, I welcome the motion that you have, is the fact that we are here because people were ignored, absolutely ignored, and we know that there was loss of life and hardship, and particularly with the most vulnerable people in society as well. So the day that we've got all chief execs on all boards, particularly in finance, it'd be absolutely great if they're all women. I'm only joking about that, but I would like to see it. I would like to see that we all contributed, both male and female, to being, as community leaders, we celebrate this because it's so important, and rightly that here at the seat of Derbyshire Dales, where we have democracy of some sort. So let's hope that all the candidates there are candidates sitting for election next time, and we come back with more women. Thank you very much, Chair.
Councillor Rose.
I will tread warily. But obviously, we must all support this motion, and I'm glad it's been brought to mark the occasion of, women getting votes in 1980, and then 10 years later, the franchise being widened. But I think I'm going to make a more general point, and that is, I think we must all be concerned, whatever party or even independent party we might represent, that people out there are getting more and more cynical about us politicians now. Occasions they have to pause, and when you look at the shenanigans in the House of Commons from time to time, well, compare that to how we conduct our business here in Doveridge Dales. I think, whilst we have our disagreements, and we might have a disagreement about the next motion, who knows, it's all done in a fairly reasonable fashion, and everybody is sort of, understand each other's position. We don't get to fisticuffs for swear words or anything like that, God forbid. But I'm concerned, however many male or female councillors emerge, next May, that we've all got a fight on our hands to convince the public, be they female or male voters, that Derbyshire Dales is something worth supporting. And who knows, we might be asking them their opinion about unitary counties next. And I'd like to feel that we'd get our public engaged in that process. So I commend the motion, and I'm sure it'll be unanimous.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded, the motion as stated in our papers. All those in favour, please.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Okay, motion B. Before we start this, I thought it would be useful for Sandra to give us an introduction of information. Please, Sandra.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So motion B concerns Rule of Procedure 24 in the Constitution, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, which regulates the rescission of decision taken by Council within a period of 6 months. And it acts as a procedural break, given the high level of decision taken by Council as a body. So what you have before you is a notice of motion which has the requisite number of people subscribing to it, so it fits the bill. But before you debate it, I thought it might be worthwhile reminding ourselves of what the decision was taken by Council on the 30th of April to which this motion relates. So on the 30th of April, it was a special meeting of the Council in relation to this particular venue, Hall Leys Park play area. Council decided that, having regard to the feedback from the recent public consultation exercise, the public toilet facilities at Matlock Hall Leys Park play area are permanently closed and decommissioned for the reasons given in the report, and that actions to dispose of the assets following closure are approved as follows. And the first action was to demolish the current site within a period of 6 months. Demolition of the site requires planning consent, and I understand that a planning application has recently been submitted. The second point was to install a temporary single portaloo type facility within 1 month. The single portaloo facility was installed on the 14th of May to coincide with closure of the facility. To continue discussions with Matlock Town Council and other interested parties on the potential for a new facility, including commercial venture, and the timescale for that was ongoing. Pleased to say that we've had a number of meetings with Matlock Town Council, and that we're due to meet again on the 1st of August. And finally, to refer a project to the new commercial board to assess the potential for alternative commercial use to incorporate public toilet provision, and the timescale for that was 3 months. and I'm pleased to note, and you will have noted in the minute book, that the Commercial Board met on the 18th of July and made a positive decision to invite expressions for interest, including a commercial element and public toilet use, for what we know as the Ranger Station in Hall Leys Park. So whilst that decision has been made, we have yet to advertise the opportunity. So in terms of debating the motion before you, it's moved and seconded. The Council can accept any part of the proposal or amend terms of it. What it cannot do is totally replace the proposition with something new.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. So I'd like to call on Councillor Sue Burford to propose the motion.
Thank you, Chair. I think I need first of all to put this motion in the context of how important these toilets are in our town of Matlock, and the strength of feeling amongst the local people and in fact visitors who were absolutely dismayed at the thought that these toilets would be closed down. So the children's play area is teeming with children in the summer, as Mr. Greenwood said, and particularly this summer in the hot weather. So to have one portaloo is just not acceptable. And there have been reports of queues of children, and in fact children so desperate to go to the toilet that they've actually gone behind the portaloo. So I need also to say that these toilets were partly provided by public subscription, and although I accept that such a building has a limited lifespan, I do ask whether enough repairs have been done on a regular basis over the years of its life. When Martin and I visited the toilets just literally before the closure, I was frankly surprised to find that they did seem to be what we thought to be in a reasonable condition. I think we all know that if you get in a professional surveyor, they will find every single fault. That happens when you buy a house. It doesn't mean you've got to rip the whole roof off if they find one slate missing and say it needs a new roof. So surely a competent builder would have been able to bring them back to a reasonable standard. Now I'm not saying who would have paid for that. That's for debate. So to my motion and what I'm asking the Council to agree, basically I'm asking for a stay of execution on the demolition of the toilets until every single avenue has been explored with no time limit. And I think that's really important. No time limit, no demolition until the avenues have been explored. This would give time for a number of options to be explored, and Sandra has mentioned Matlock Town Council, commercial ventures. I understand there may be something in the pipeline, although we don't know what that is. At the end of the day, Matlock Park needs decent children's toilets in that play area. The main toilets are too far away for children desperate for the loo. How we get there is still up for consideration. What we don't want is for the toilets to be demolished in the near future, and that's what the main thrust of my motion is, to stop the demolition and give everyone time to come up with a solution to the problem. Thank you, Chair.
I think that finds a seconder with Councillor Flitter. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Flitter.
Firstly I want to declare that as a member of Matlock Town Council, I was initially involved with discussions, but I've moved aside from that now because I'm also a member of the Commercial Board. However, three things that concern me is firstly the consultation period, which was early in the year, and secondly how we got in touch with visitors, and how, because we didn't really put out the consultation to the fullest benefit to get the right result that local people wanted, because a lot of people down there visit the site, they don't actually live in Matlock, probably not in the Derbyshire Dales. So there are a lot of people that were missed out of that consultation. I did vote well, I abstained on Wednesday evening on the commercial board because I think that discussions were going around the ranger station and what was going to happen to that. To me, that is not an ideal site for a children's toilet. A, because it is right at the side of a raging River Derwent, and secondly, because children would have to find a way of crossing the railway line in the park. But I'm still willing to listen to all the arguments, and that's why I didn't vote against. I abstained because I want to see what there was there on offer. The other thing is that with people moving out and making the ranger station available, there has to be money spent on what we call the ammo store in Matlock, so that our staff can be transferred. And if we've got 20 grand in the pot for that, that money could have been spent on something far more useful in providing these toilets. So we have got the money, but what the Conservatives are doing on here is looking at the way that they spend that money. And I'm saying that the children in the park are far more deserving than looking after other things on the park. It is really disconcerting because those toilets were built with the public in mind. It wasn't that it was built on public subscription. It was built because the people of Matlock and visitors found a need. And the one toilet that is now at the moment is clearly not enough. So I am supporting this motion that we hang fire and we reverse the decision to demolish, because if that building is demolished, then we have no choice but to find other aspects of a way forward. And that way forward does not include that site. It includes other sites on the park that are more obstructive. So please think about the children on the park, think about the parents on the park. You can't just walk across to the river bank with one child and leave another child in the complex. You have to pack all your bags, you have to go to the toilets, and it doesn't matter whether it's at the top of the park or 10 yards away. That cannot happen. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Martin Burfoot.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I support this motion, not surprisingly. I think the survey procured by the council...
Get closer to the mic, please.
Sorry?
Can you move the mic closer, yeah?
I think the survey procured by the council a few months ago was grossly exaggerated, as our inspection just before the closure proved. And it's also all because of the claims culture and a large firm employed to carry out an extensive survey of the entire district, I believe. There's been evidence of poor maintenance of those toilets in the past, which has encouraged deterioration of part of the outer part of the structure, but I think the internal structure is quite sound, and that's what we found when we inspected it. Hall Leys Park is one of Matlock's top attractions and also attracts potential spending income within the town, of course, from hundreds of families every week. The public are frankly bemused now by the closure and provision of a single Portaloo toilet, which is, as Sue has said, is totally inadequate. This has caused a public health issue for parents with younger children, but when they are totally closed, public annoyance in the autumn will escalate. If a viable solution involving a town council takeover or commercial option can be negotiated, this should be supported but may take time, and therefore I think it's misguided for the council to initiate demolition in the autumn before all possibilities have been fully explored. So that's all I have to say, but I think it's clear what I believe about this subject.
Thank you. Councillor Massey Bloodworth.
I am supporting this motion. I understand that at the end of their life possibly do need demolishing, but I feel that they should stay open until we know for definite that there will be other suitable toilets there for the kids to use. As a mum of a young daughter, who's 4, I know the importance of a close toilet. I mean, she would never make it that far, never. And I mean,
it's just, and then to try and change them as well, it's just a complete nightmare. I'm sorry, but I'm supporting this motion because we need toilets at a children's park. One portaloo is not enough. I've seen the amount of children that go to that park. They don't use the toilet in an orderly fashion. They don't understand queuing up to go to a toilet. I mean, if you've ever seen a child in a shop, they don't do queuing or waiting, do they? I mean, it's just not possible and not feasible. I think they should stay open until we know for definite what other provisions there are going to be there for children to have a toilet.
Thank you. Councillor Swindle.
Thank you, Chair. I'm supporting the motion. I'm thankful for Councillor Barefoot for bringing it forward and happy to put my name to it. When we had the debate some weeks back about the closure of the loos, I voted against not all of them, but the vast majority, because the basic bodily function of a human being to use the toilet shouldn't be denied to anybody. I can stomach some of them because I know we have to make savings on the council and etc, etc. But the one in Hall Leys Park particularly galled me. Like Councillor Massey Bloodworth, I'm also a new dad. My 9-month-old still uses nappies, but we're down in the park, and it is no over-exaggeration. It is packed, and that queue for the toilets. I've seen shorter queues at the Why Not Festival after the main event. The motion, I will support it in its entirety. Even if we are told that those toilets aren't safe and we can't reopen them, I totally agree that the stay of execution on their demolition should be put in place, because we need to explore all of the options before we just rush forward and shut it down. I've made comments in here as well before about how contractors who build toilets and fix toilets do charge extortionate rates. Perhaps I'm got my head in the clouds, maybe to some members, but is there not a local tradesman or tradesperson out there who would be willing to give charitable time to rebuild them? Elton Jubilee Field's new pavilion clubhouse has been built thanks to local trades and business people giving up their free time. All we've had to pay for is the materials. Is that not something this council could look at and explore, whether through our officers or through elected representatives nearby, who could somehow put the message out there that can you help, can you, it wasn't long ago we talked about the big society and that disappeared, but perhaps we could reinvent it and look again.
Thank you. We've got Councillor Wilde next.
Could I just ask a question? How many complaints have we had to the council about the current provision, please?
Sandra, are you able to answer that question?
My understanding is none, Chair, but Ash might be able to confirm that from a service point of view.
I can, Chair. I've not received a complaint. I'm not saying that there's not been discussions with the Parks team, but none has worked their way back to their supervisors or to myself.
Right, thank you for that. Councillor Wilde, did you want to continue? Or no, thank you. Councillor Botham.
Thank you. Yes, I was also happy to support Councillor Barefoot's motion, and I think common sense should prevail. There are toilets there. They could be open seasonally so that people aren't queuing for that one small provision that we've got there already. It's all up in the air about whether or not the commercial board can use that land and get somebody interested in that land. It's all up in the air whether Matlock Town Council and this council can come up with an agreement. And so therefore I think it would be unprudent to close or to demolish that facility while all of that is going on. And I'd like to just say thank you very much for Mr. Greenwood coming to speak to us today and highlighting the fact that there are people in Matlock that are complaining and that he's spoken to them. Visitors are coming to Matlock and their children are suffering, is a big word, but because of the fact that this ongoing thing is going, this is an ongoing thing. So I support this motion fully.
Thank you. Councillor Rose.
the one who has to set out the practical position here, and as Sandra Lammers reminded us of the original decision. And that was a decision which made it...
Sorry, so some people at the back can't hear you.
That was... I can't yell much more.
Okay, sorry.
That was a decision which many members obviously spoke about, and it's involved a number of toilets, including those in the recreation ground in Ashbourne next to a playground, but we haven't had any move as far as that's concerned. So I just think there is nothing between now and April that has changed, other than that some members, for very genuine reasons, I don't condemn that at all, feel that we should reconsider the decision, but there is no actual new fact that has come out that would make that the right thing to do tonight. In fairness to the other areas where we've had to make tough decisions, not popular decisions. And we've had this debate about car parking charges and other things. You know, everybody out there, including my friends on the right or on the left, as the case may be, fully appreciate that there are financial issues which we have to address. The auditors are here, it's good thing they're listening to a debate like this, so they know the harsh realities of the decisions we have to take, which are not popular. You know, and I think it's a pity that Matlock Town Council, with great respect, did not grasp the nettle, as Wirksworth, Hathersage, and I could name a whole lot more, did grasp the nettle and get on with it. Why not? We still want more time. It's up in the air. So I'm sorry, I don't think there is anything here that changes what we decided in April. And you know, calling for an independent assessment. It was independently assessed by the Derbyshire County Council. You know, so you know, they do have professional building surveyors who don't have axes to grind. And I feel therefore that was a very effective and useful assessment. So I'm sorry, Chairman. I know it's not popular, and I know and I admire the people who've spoken in favour of this motion because they're doing it sincerely, and that is a good thing. But I've got to be the man who says we've got to say no, because I see no reason why we should change our decision, the reasons I've stated.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. This motion depresses and astounds me in equal measure. The second paragraph into the motion, the play area is some distance from the main toilets on Causeway Lane. Are we really raising a generation of kids that can never go on a country walk or a picnic? Can they never go on a beach? Can they not take the cycles on the Monsell Trail in the beautiful Peak District National Park, or unless they stay within 100 yards of a toilet? How are we treating these kids? I mean, do they have to spend their life in a playground within 50 yards of a toilet? Sorry, I can't support this.
Okay, thank you very much. We each give each other respect when we're talking, please. Councillor Mike Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. I'd certainly like to give my support to the motion, even though I was one of the members of the Commercial Board, of course, that voted for the examination of the possibility of opening Knowleston Place, the ranger station, as an alternative. But I did that because public conveniences, I think, are something that we should, wherever they're needed and in whatever location, provide if we're able to. And that certainly seemed to provide an alternative. However, the very essence of these recommendations is that there may be underlying those recommendations the possibility that that alternative at the ranger station doesn't come about. There's no guarantee of the take-up of a commercial ownership there. And as has been pointed out, it has inherent things that need to be addressed, such as the miniature railway intervening and the presence of the River Derwent alongside. it seems to me that there is general agreement about the need for convenience on this location. I think that's evidenced certainly by the fact that we ourselves are looking at an alternative close by, and also the very fact that Mr. Greenwood was able within an hour to collect 400 signatures. That again incidentally seems to point out to me that when you ask the particular right question, if you like, on consultation, generally you'll get the right answer. The point about complaints seems to me a little bit of a non sequitur in a sense, because I know for a fact, for instance, that very few people complain about dog fouling, for example, but it's one of the #1 issues within the majority of our communities. So I think there is a need that we need, certainly should be looking at very responsibly and significantly about the provision of toilets on this site, and toilets, of course, that are going to address a very specific need of young families and young children in a playground location. Within the recommendations, clearly again there is the observation and recognition that once demolition takes place, you actually lose that alternative. Once gone, it's highly unlikely to come back. So it seems to me that some element of caution here on our part, just to take a moment and take a breathing space, as it were, before fully making a definite decision on this. It is worth exploring and indeed taking on board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Slack, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I should be supporting this motion, Chair. I find it incredible, really, that one of the busiest parks, the part of the parks, with the wonderful paddling pool, with the swings, with the motorboats, the miniature railway, it's absolutely swarming with people. And what do? We close the toilet to put a little portaloo there. I mean, are we really looking at this seriously? If you've got a lot of people there, you've got to cater for the people. You've got to cater for children. Children, when they've been in the paddling, will want to use the toilet. We all know that, and we're letting them down. We're letting them down completely by threatening to close this in the autumn, and once it's closed, that'll be it. And we've got a portaloo there which is totally incapable of being any use for anyone, really. Big queues at the front of it. So I fully support this, Chair, and I wish some of the other councillors had just listened to the speakers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Irene Ratcliffe.
I think a bit way to Councillor Hawley, haven't you had her hand up?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Councillor Pawley, sorry. Councillor Pawley.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. I don't know really where to start. I mean, I went past there on the bus today. It was heaving. What I want to know is how we as a council who run that park and should have knowledge about the use of that little playground could possibly think of just putting one portaloo there. I mean, it's just unbelievable that we could do that. But that's beside the point. And I would hope that we reconsider that decision if this gets rejected. But coming back to the actual motion and the 2 points, one is that you had no complaints from the general public. Well, I'm not surprised, because when we did petitions in Matlock Bath about the demolition of the toilets next to the pavilion, we had 5,500 people sign petitions for that, and we still are demolishing it. Now, I did not fight against that very hard, because I knew the state that was in. but I believe that this particular toilet block is not where we were with the pavilion toilet block. And if it was looked at more carefully, it could be restored to a certain extent, even if it's just restored for 18 months while we consider other options. Why did we close it at the beginning of the busiest season part of the year? I have no idea, knowing that children were going to be going there. And to take up the member's point that are we raising a whole generation of wimps? Well, I just can't believe it. If I took my son when he was that age, 4 or 5, because all the children that go in that pool are not going to be over 9 years old unless they're a bit old. If you took your child for a walk in the countryside, he can pee behind a bush. If you go in the park and there's only one toilet and they can't hold on, you either let them do it in the pool, in their trousers, or behind a bush, where we then get environmental health problems. We need to think about this more carefully.
Councillor Irene Ratcliffe.
Chair, I'm not going to, it's been eloquently said, so I'm not going to repeat this. But this is a gift for the leading group. This motion is a gift for you to turn around and say, not only have we listened to the people that have come to attend, that we are offering another olive branch to the Matlock Town Council, and I believe they've been very generous in some of their things towards trying to balance this and get us to help in the issue. We should, and if I was leader of the council, for God forbid I am not, and I understand the pressures, I would see this as a gift, and I wouldn't whip my members in order to all vote in favour against this motion. I would, like the colleague over there, I would stick up and say yes. We've just had something on the motion for women's votes. Well, let's all collectively understand the difficulties of rearing children, having siblings and having children 2, 3, 4, whatever. You need to understand, as of course Councillor Chapman, needs to have a little bit more experience and training in this aspect. But it is really important.
29 now, and she can change her own nappy now.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will support this motion, and I will repeat what I said. If I had been leader of this council, we would be whipped in order to give them to change this, to support this motion, because it was the wrong decision, done too quickly and too hastily.
Okay, Councillor Monks.
Well, we didn't want to close any of the toilets, but we also know we have to have a balanced budget. I can't vote for this and then look at my constituents in the face who've taken out an enormous loan to redo their toilets. We have to pay it on the precept. I've got Ian, who no way do they want to take over the toilets, but they have loads of school children visiting. People, I mean, the cost I know is just being moved from one place to another. But if we aren't allowed to raise the money for that, I really can't see what the alternative is. So I'm sorry, I won't be supporting this motion.
Okay, I've got nobody else on my list. I'll ask Councillor Burford. Oh, Councillor Finesse.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I represent Bramble Ward. Sorry, no. I represent Bramble Ward, and we've had the same dilemma there. In the town toilet was down for closure, and the parish council have had to face this, and there's been lots of talk and negotiations. Very similar things that have been said in this room about closures of toilets, and how much they're needed. But at the end of the day, Bramble Parish Council have bitten the bullet and have taken them over, and they're selling for it. And the precept is going to have to go up to cover it. But at least the facility remains in place. From listening to what's been said, there's obviously a big swell of opinion in Matlock that these toilets should remain open. So I must say, it's got to be down to the town council to bite the bullet the same way that Bramble Parish Council has. So I hope that the people who have spoken here will go to a town council meeting and say the same things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Well, can we just put some facts straight? The toilets were closed and not reopened. They close each year through the winter months. They do not stay open all the year round. So they weren't closed down. They were considered in no fit state in the interest of the children and safety and viral safety for them to be reopened. Now, I can understand where everybody's coming from. I do appreciate that. I'm one of the few people left around Matlock that was involved in raising the money for that block, or trying to raise it. We got very little public support. In the end, we had to come to the council, we had to go to local developers and beg for them to get involved on a three-way split so that we could get the block we did. It wasn't the block we wanted. We wanted a substantial stone mill that was in keeping with the heritage park and that would last forever. We couldn't do it. We got what we could, and we knew that eventually it would come to the point where it would have to be closed. Now, I regret that we have to close it, but we have to make decisions. A democratic decision was taken in April following public consultation, and I believe that this council should uphold that democratic decision. Fine, I am making the position I stand in. I was always brought up that if something was democratically moved, whatever, if you opposed it, you're a minority, you accepted the minority decision unless you could positively do something. The town council, and I acknowledge I'm a member of that, could have come in over 12 months ago when this went out to the public in general and agreed to increase the funding for it. At that time, they refused. Now, I know it is now in debate and in discussion, but that is fact and can be checked in the minutes. Anyway, I would just like to make a point. I know we've heard about all the signatures and all the rest, but interestingly, this week, Radio Derby were having a conversation on how to keep children cool and occupied in this hot weather. People were asked to ring in. What was the main suggestion? The consensus of opinion was to visit Matlock and the wonderful children's play area, which includes a water play area. This area has all the facilities needed for families with young children, and yet the older generation can come with you too, because they can have the benefit of being able to sit under the trees. Now, these were the views of visitors out of the district and of local people who had visited the park in recent days and were encouraging other people to come. They had not had any problems with the toilet facilities, because I'm sure it would have been live on the air. We would have known. They would have not been encouraging other people to come. They'd have been telling them to stay away because there was a problem. The Portaloo, as it's referred to, for those who haven't seen it, is not a basic workman's Portaloo. It's an upmarket one. It has changing facilities within it. It is spotlessly clean and it has disabled access. Yes, it is one. Perhaps we needed two. But we have got something. We could have had nothing. Now, come the autumn, that Portaloo will close as the toilets would have done anyway. So there will be nothing in situ through the autumn. We will then have 6 months to decide what we want to do. Going back to the programme that I heard, it confirmed to me that this park is loved by visitors and residents alike and is a positive contribution to the town of Matlock and the tourism generally. And I believe that visitors, in what they were saying in not objecting, have confirmed that they haven't got a problem with the current situation. And in any case, nothing could now be done for this summer school holidays. We're there, we've started them. Whatever anybody wants to do, that work could not be carried out during the summer holiday period. It would take too long. And the block is always closed through winter months, so hopefully we can look forward to a new facility for next summer, and I hope that the board will be able to bring something together. I'm sorry, I cannot support the motion.
Right, thank you very much. I'd like to ask Councillor Burford, Sue Burford, to sum up her motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Well, this has been a passionate debate. Obviously, I won't spend too long on what I say now. I think every councillor in this room, if they are aware of these toilets and of this play area and have been to see it when it's absolutely teeming with children, if you haven't been to see it, then you don't know what you're talking about, quite honestly. If this motion is not approved, you are making a terrible decision, and I've heard some things tonight that quite frankly, I just can't believe what I'm hearing. This idea that children should be able to, children of 3 or 2, 3 or 4 are expected to say, "Oh mum, yes I want to go to the toilet. It's all right, I can hold on for 5 minutes while my mum packs up all the stuff and gets the baby and gets them to the other toilet. Oh dear, had an accident." That is, I've never heard such rubbish in all my life, to be honest. There is only one Portaloo. It might be state of the art. It's one toilet. People are queuing to go to this one toilet. Now, we've heard a lot as well about the public consultation. Did the council stand in this play area and at a busy weekend and ask the people that were there what their opinion was? I assume not. Most of those people would not have been from Matlock. There will have been a fair proportion who were from Matlock, but certainly in the summer months the queues to come into Matlock are, I've seen it today, they are enormous. These people will not have taken part in this consultation, but from what Mr. Greenwood's seen and done, within the space of an hour he's got 400 people to sign a petition. And if that isn't telling you something, then I don't know what I can possibly say to persuade you to support this. Now, I am prepared, Chair. I would like a recorded vote.
Absolutely fine, I'll second that. All those in favour of a recorded vote?
I wonder also whether you would be happy to take a vote on each individual.
No, we're saying we can only take it on the motion as per the procedure.
Yeah, I wonder why too. I mean, you know, we all know, let's be clear about this. The Conservatives have been whipped on this, and I do actually commend Councillor Matthew Bloodworth for, you know, putting her head above the parapet, so thank you for that. Very brave.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. We're going to have a recorded vote. We'll put that over for Jackie. Just to support Sue Burford's motion, so you say for, and obviously against if you're against. Okay, so Jackie, please.
Councillor Atkin.
Against.
Botham. Bright.
Against.
Bull.
Against.
Martin Barefoot.
For.
Sue Barefoot. Chapman.
Against.
Donnelly.
Against.
Anne Elliott.
Against.
Graham Elliott.
For.
Fitzherbert.
Against.
Flitter.
For.
Froggatt.
Against.
Finesse.
Against.
Hill.
Against.
Massey Bloodworth.
For.
Monks.
Against.
Morley.
Against.
Murphy.
Against.
Hawley.
For.
Purdy.
Against.
Irene Ratcliffe.
For.
Mike Ratcliffe.
For.
Rose.
Against.
Shirley.
Against.
Slack.
4.
Statham.
Against.
Stevens.
Against.
Swindle.
4.
Tibbenham.
Abstain.
Tilbrook.
Against.
Wild.
Against. Not with.
Thank you very much. Sandra's just doing the sums.
That's 11 votes in favour, 20 against and 1 abstention.
So the motion has been defeated. Can we move on then to item 10? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to Mr. Greenwood. Thank you very much. See you again sometime. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll have, so I did want to move on. How bad is it? We'll take 5 minutes adjournment then. Okay. Yeah, well, yeah. Sorry about that. I'm going to move on. Sorry. I'm going to take the opportunity now.
Yeah, I think
More seats, please. Who have we? We've lost one or two members. Councillor Flitter just popped out. Oh, there he is. Right, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're moving on now to item 10, the external audit 260 report. Okay, Karen and Mark Nash. Karen, are you going to? Okay, Mark, please. Thank you very much. Right, okay, so, okay. Right, I thought maybe you were going to introduce them, but John Cornett's going to introduce the report. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm conscious that the report came out as a separate paper. I just want to make sure that everyone's got sight of it. It's the paper that's got a bright blue cover with a pink sandstone building on the front of it that looks like that Councillor Stevens has got.
Yeah.
Came out as item 10 as a separate email of the main agenda. I printed mine off because I was not possible.
So the report that's in front of you represents the conclusion, or nearly the conclusion, of our audit of your 2017-18 financial statements. The requirements are that we have to give you two opinions. One is an opinion on the accounts, and the second is what is known as a value for money conclusion or use of resources conclusion. So I'll deal with each of those two issues in turn. Having said that, I will make the assumption that the report has been read. And just want to focus on the key messages that are highlighted on the pages as I headed up as a summary for the Council, and they are on pages 1 and 2 of the report. So, in undertaking our work as part of the audit of the accounts, we reported to Governance and Resources Committee earlier on in the year with our audit plan that set out the risks facing the delivery of the audit. And fundamentally, there were three risks that we highlighted for that committee. One was around the valuation of your property, plant and equipment. The second was around the size of the pensions liability, and the third was around the advanced timetable for producing the accounts and the faster close requirements. So the work that we have undertaken has addressed and mitigated those risks in combination with the work that your officers have undertaken, and really in relation to those three risks there's nothing that I need to report to you. Having said that, there are a number of changes that we have asked your officers to make to the accounts, and they have been actioned by the officers. One was in relation to the incorrect use of asset lives for an infrastructure asset, which was a service road, which led to changes in depreciation of that asset. One was a minor change to the value of the audit fee that you were disclosing, and the other one was changing classification of some of your assets that you had classified as assets held for sale, but didn't meet the stringent requirements that are in place to classify an asset as such, therefore have been written back into your property, plant and equipment figure. So that is a technical classification adjustment to the accounts. The adjustments that we asked your officers to make did not impact on the reporting outturn position that has previously been reported to the Council. They are purely adjustments within the financial statements themselves. The work that we've undertaken is nearly complete. On the second page, on page 2, at the top, there are a list of 5 bullets setting out the work that is still to be completed. I just want to give the Council the assurance that the first 2 of those bullets, that work is now done. So the audit procedures in relation to the pensions disclosures and the completion of our work on journal transactions is now complete. The final 3 bullets are entirely normal to be outstanding at this stage, and they are the completion procedures that I can only undertake once you have approved the accounts. So it's entirely normal that that work is outstanding at this stage. There are a couple of recommendations that we have made in the report in relation to the accounts. One of those recommendations recognises that there has been an improvement in the supporting working papers behind the accounts, but also recognises that there is scope for further improvement to better evidence and better consider the disclosures and the entries that you have made in the accounts through the working papers. I'm not in any way saying that there are weaknesses in the supporting papers. What I'm saying is an opportunity to secure further improvements in that respect. So overall, taking all of that together, the outcome of our work on your accounts means that we propose to issue you with an unqualified opinion on the accounts, and that's the outcome that you are looking to achieve. It's the outcome that says that your accounts present a true and fair view of the financial position of the authority. So that deals with the accounts opinion and the work that we do on the accounts. The second opinion, as I said, that we have to issue you with is what we call a value for money conclusion. And as I have reiterated on several occasions to Governance and Resources Committee, we don't give you a conclusion as to whether you provide value for money. We give you a conclusion as to whether you have adequate arrangements in place to deliver value for money. That is a very subtle but very important difference. The reason for that is as to whether you provide value for money is highly subjective. There are a number of people in this room, there are 30 odd people in this room, all of us will have a different view on what represents value for money. Therefore, we can only audit the processes and systems in place that you have to deliver value for money. When we reported to Governance and Resources earlier on in the year, we highlighted to you that the significant risk facing the Council in relation to value for money was financial resilience and financial planning and the delivery of your medium-term financial strategy. The work that we've undertaken looks at the processes and arrangements that you have in place to deliver that medium-term financial strategy, to deliver your budgets, and we have concluded that there's no issues to highlight for you from our review of those arrangements. That doesn't mean to say that the delivery of those plans will be easy. I think they will be challenging for you to achieve the savings targets that you've got, and I think it's a bit trite for me to now reiterate to you that it will involve taking some difficult decisions, having seen the debate that you just had, but it will involve taking difficult decisions to deliver your savings targets and to deliver your financial plans. And there is a recommendation in the report, embedded within the report, in relation to that. So the conclusion that we've reached is that we intend to issue an unqualified value for money conclusion, and that's the conclusion that says that you have adequate arrangements in place to secure value for money. In audit speak, adequate is as good as it gets in that relation. So they're either adequate or they are not adequate. They're the two conclusions that we issued. We do, as all external auditors do in the public sector, have the ability to exercise statutory powers. We have not had the need to exercise those statutory powers with you either this year or in fact at any time in the past, and we will be having a completely different conversation if we had exercised those statutory powers. So it's just to give you the assurance that that has not happened. And I really just wanted to finish off by expressing my thanks to Karen and Mark and the rest of their finance team for their help and support during the course of the audit. It has been very much a partnership approach to get to the conclusion that we have reached. That doesn't mean to say that it is too close a relationship. There has been challenge in there, and certainly your officers have challenged us in terms of some of the issues that we have raised with them, and that is entirely appropriate. That was all I was going to say in terms of presenting the report, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to take any questions or explore those issues in more detail.
Any questions? Go straight to Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Well, this seems very strange sitting down here, because when John and Katie normally come, it is governance, and I'm in the chair, so it's good to see it from a different perspective. John and Katie do put in an awful lot of work on behalf of the district, as do Karen and Mark. And those of you that are on governance, I know, do appreciate this and understand the work that goes into it and what it is all about. Those of you who aren't in governance, who probably haven't picked up on the audit paper before, please do read it, look at it, get an insight into what it's all about, what the governance committee does have to oversee. It is important. I've just got two little comments to make, not regarding the audit, but under the appendixes on page 24, we have a priority rating red, declaration of interest. Now, to me, this is a cause for concern. We should not have a red priority on something that relates to members of the council. It would appear that 4 councillors for the year 2017-18 did not hand in their declaration forms. Now, I thought this was a mandatory requirement of all councillors. And I don't know what the recommendation or the situation is, perhaps either Sandra or Karen can confirm, those people that haven't completed the statutory paperwork.
Who'd like to answer that one? Karen.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think we're obliged to name the people.
Right, well,
Good sidestep.
well, I know we probably wouldn't want to do it publicly in the meeting, but I think those people do need speaking to, and we do need to ensure that in future it is 100%, it is important. The other issue was the valuation of properties on page 20.
Sorry, John would like to just answer
Sorry,
that
John.
one. Sorry.
Okay, can I just come back to you on that? I think it's absolutely right. It is important to make sure that those declarations are complete in the interests of openness and transparency and in the interests of good governance. I would suggest that the approach that I've seen taken elsewhere is very much an encouraging approach to get those members to complete those declarations. I do have one other client that will remain nameless that has got to the point where they have named and shamed the members who have not made the declarations, simply out of frustration because they've not been able to encourage them to actually complete the forms. So I think it is important, and I think you're right to pursue the issue and to get those declarations complete.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. The other item was page 25. It was just to note the valuation of properties was an amber. But I understand that arrangements are in place with this so that it will be dealt with in the coming year. Can you confirm that that is correct?
Yes, I can confirm that we'll be working with the valuation officers, and we will formalise, and we do have a very good relationship with our internal advisors, with the valuers, but for this purpose we recognise that there does need to be a more formal process, and we'll adopt that in next year's accounts process.
Thank you for that, Mark. That was the only comments. I'm therefore happy to move the recommendations. The recommendation.
Okay. Councillor Mike Ratcliffe.
I had no great concerns about the report.
Are you happy to second?
It was very constructive, and the findings obviously are going to be dealt with, even though the report identified them as significant risks. I pick up on the one that Councillor Stevens has just mentioned about the valuation and the move to reduce the 4-year cycle, obviously brought about because the rapidly changing financial climate, no doubt. I also picked up on the faster close, which when I first read it in the report, I thought I'd missed some new housing development, but I realised it was talking about something else. But again, it's a change to a timetable, which means we have to do things a little bit more frequently. And my general question to Karen and Mark would be, are you happy that we have the resource and etc. to meet these increased demands on your time?
Are we talking about in relation to the close down process being reduced? Yeah, so in previous years the process has been 6 months, which gave officers 3 months to produce a draft, and then the auditors 3 months to do their assurance work, which has now been reduced to 4 months, being 2 for us and 2 for the auditors. So we have achieved that this year, and we have no reason to believe that we won't be able to achieve it going forward. Things like the recommendations around better working papers and refining our processes will aid us in being able to close quicker, and it will also aid the auditors when they come in, if we've got a clearer flow and audit trail for those. Yeah, so we have achieved it for this year, which is good. It is the first year where it was statutory, and there's no reason why we won't improve on that in future years.
Councillor Rack, are you happy to second the motion? Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions, comments from everyone? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. And moving on to number 11, in conjunction with this, the statement of accounts, Mark.
Yes, this item directly follows on from the previous one. Having just received the auditor's opinion on the accounts, these are now the accounts for the year 2017-18 and the annual governance statement which is contained within them. So now we are asking council to adopt these formally as the records for the council. But before that, I'm quite happy to take any questions on the accounts now, or if anybody wants to meet at a later point for more detail, I'm quite happy for that. But if anybody's got any specific questions on the accounts now.
A question, Councillor Pauly, sorry.
Yes, I want to refer to the report that comes with it, further on, page 4.
Can you get close to the mic, please? Thanks.
Sorry.
Thanks.
I'd like to refer to the report on page 4 of that report that comes with it, and the statement of accounts and the narrative statement. Received from sales of assets, it says that we've got 1015 million from housing stock transfer, right to buy. My questions on that are, do you know how many houses or flats that actually represents, and how much it would cost to replace them like for like?
We don't have that information to hand, but it's certainly something we can get hold of. Yes, we can do.
And then moving on to collection fund and business rates collection, which is the next one along. There's been an increase. Is there any reason for that? And we seem to have in the deficit, and we seem to have a year-on-year deficit. So what I'm asking is, and this is just for information because I can't quite understand, and I want to know. When we get to the point where we're getting the use of 100% business rates, so obviously we take what we gather in business rates and get 100% on that. Will that mean that we'll be more, proactive in chasing people who don't pay? Because if we're not getting in, we won't be getting more than 100%.
It's actually quite a complicated question, that is. The deficit in the collection fund doesn't relate to unpaid debts. It relates to a difference between budgeting and actuals, but the collection fund accounting isn't done under proper accounting terms. The reason for this year's deficit was that there was a revaluation was brought in at the start of the year, so the budget was set a lot higher, and then revaluation relief was granted by the government under what's called Section 31 grant. Now, the grant that we received in this current year, but because of the way we account for the collection fund, the deficit, or the revaluation that we didn't collect, will actually flow through into a future year. So we do have money in reserves which will offset a large amount of this deficit. In relation to your question on 100% business rate retention, that we could talk for hours on that, and 100% business rate doesn't mean that we will get 100% business rates.
I understand that.
Nothing like.
We'll get something, so I was just thinking. Sorry, I was just thinking, as we will get something, we will be more proactive in chasing. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we are proactive in chasing our debts through our partners at Avato, as they do with the debt collection. It simply means that we will retain a greater share, but as far as I'm aware, we're not changing our collection policy with Avato on actually collecting debt.
Okay. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm happy to move the recommendations, but I have just got one comment. On the statement of accounts, on page 6, I think before this is put up anywhere, there's a date point slightly altering. It says it's not applicable for 2007 to 18. Can we make it 2017 to 18, please?
Yeah, we'll get that changed.
Right, that's fine. I'm happy to move it.
Eagle Eye. Councillor Mike Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. I'll second it to move things on, but can I just ask a question? One of the roots of all our political argument in this council is, perhaps rightly, the use of finance, you know, how we spend the monies we get. On page 30, you've given us a table of reserves. Could I just ask you to very quickly, if you can, just give me a simple explanation. This council deems it proper to have at least 1 million held in reserve against, tell me if I'm wrong, against unforeseen. We have a total of 51 million as of the 31st of March. We had 33 million of that was unusable because it was allocated. Am I correct then that we have 18 million in our reserves that has not been allocated for any specific purpose, or are there ongoing future programs for which it does have an allocation but have not yet been put in the expenditures?
You're quite right. We do keep 1 million aside as our general fund balance, which is a contingency which is recommended to us as an appropriate amount for an organisation outside. That is a rainy day contingency fund that we hold. In relation to unusable reserves, these are accounting reserves. They're not real cash-backed money. It is a way that we represent the value of our assets, but they're not reserves that we can use or spend, unfortunately. Now the other amount, the balancing amount that you talked about, the 17-18 million pound of other reserves. Now they are earmarked reserves for future projects, and they get reported as part of the MTFP. There's a table in the MTFP that analyses all of the reserves and the rationale for holding them, and also the profile over the next 3 years of how we're going to use or put more money into reserves. So yes.
Sometime you could tell me exactly how much we have, as I don't say it, but like loose change or cash, that we could use in an alternative way, if we so choose.
Yeah, I can certainly send you the table that's got the current usable reserves in. Okay.
Thank you very much. Got any other questions here? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. And then item 12, the letter of representation. Mark, are you going to take that again?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as part of the audit process, the auditors require from us that we give them assurance that we have conducted ourselves in appropriately and to our best of knowledge. We've disclosed everything to them. We've followed the guidance that's set out for us. Now, what they request is what's called a letter of representation, which is part of the evidence that they collect to give them that assurance. So we request that Council approve that the attached letter can be signed and forwarded on to KPMG.
Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, well, I would like to move the recommendation that the draft letter of representation be approved. And it's nice to see that the chairman of the council is signing it this time instead of the chair of governance.
Right, sure. My pleasure. Does that find a seconder? Councillor Murphy, seconded. Approved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. John and Katie, thank you very much. Good night. Safe trip home. And you've seen democracy in action tonight. Okay. All right. So just one. That's it. Right, okay, 12, 13. Thank you very much. Good night, Mark. Thank you. So we are deferring items 13, 14, 15. And that takes us on to item 16 on page 43 of your papers, the revised scheme of delegation to officers. Sandra, please.
Nothing to add to the report, Chair.
Councillor Rose.
Well, it's formal, Chairman, and the result of the recent decisions we made, in particular over the abolition of the Head of Corporate Services, and all this would have came to the executive, so I'm happy to move it.
Councillor Mike Ratcliffe. Okay. Any other?
As the report says, it's a very pragmatic approach to just to change
Okay. Any other comments? It's been approved and seconded. All those in favour, please show.
It's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Then we're moving on to item 17, the Derbyshire County Council bus strategy. Tim, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm introducing this in lieu of Steve Cape's, really. The report sets out the consultation that's been carried out by the County Council about the future bus provision in the county. You'll note that we weren't specifically consulted as a council, but we picked up on it as part of our scrutiny of the area. We do see it as an opportunity to emphasise the need for buses in rural areas, which you'll pick up from the report is the main thrust of our argument. The other suggestions are contained in section 2 of the report as well. The purpose of bringing it here today is to pick up any additions that members might wish to make, so that I can happily hand them all back to Steve and he can compose a letter for the chairman to sign.
Okay, who's Councillor Martin Burford? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I agree with the extra items that have been proposed of maintaining and enhancing bus services for rural communities. But I think there's a need also to add something else, because I think there's a need to encourage sustainable travel into the countryside for leisure purposes, thereby boosting the rural economy. I think we were going to Chesterfield the other day and saw this X17 bus in Chesterfield, absolutely full of elderly people, obviously with bus passes, but also families with children, probably come to the children's play area in Matlock, actually, funny enough. But that showed really how many people were using buses to get into out of where they live, out of the urban area, into a more attractive part of the countryside, i.e. Derbyshire Dales or the Peak District, whatever. So I think there's a need to add something just about encouraging sustainable travel. But there's another role, I think, for this council, because the limited responsibilities for district councils in this on this subject. But I think it's an important planning role when involving major housing and employment developments in the area. In some cases, the more savvy housing developers are offering, and we've seen it in Matlock recently, offering funded bus services from their sites to the nearby town or village, or to the centre of the town or village, in order to encourage more sustainable travel. It may not be successful, of course, but they are offering that as a tempter to us. But these tempting offers tend to be time limited, and so will be terminated. So I think there's probably a role for the council to perhaps to insist on these things being made more permanent than what they're proposing at the moment, or finding some way of funding it in the future. And another thing, finally, is and it's a critical aspect of bus travel, and that's the government's continued funding of bus passes for elderly people and for obviously for students as well. So that's an issue which obviously can't be debated here, and we have no control of it, but we could lobby government to try to ensure that bus passes are so important in rural areas particularly, as they are in cities as well, of course, but it should be maintained in the future as probably the only way of actually maintaining bus services at all. I think if the bus pass was abolished and students' passes were abolished, then bus services would cease to exist generally, except in urban areas.
Thank you. Councillor Monks, I've got.
I just want to make the point that Derbyshire Connect doesn't seem to be working very well in the northern part of the district. I know complaints that people are on the bus for hours, and it doesn't really give the service that they need. It doesn't go to where they want to go, when they want to go. I don't know how that could be incorporated into the report, but it could be mentioned here. We feel we're missing out in the northern part of the area.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to record, if it hasn't already been done so, thanks to Councillor Joyce, who actually brought this to the attention of Steve Gapes. Otherwise, we might not have been fully aware of this. And I think either Steve or Tim here has been very diplomatic in not castigating the County Council for, in fact, sidelining us when clearly within the report district councils are going to play quite a part in any new strategy. Apart from the demands that are made upon us at the moment, it seems within some of the action points that there are going to be further responsibilities perhaps passed our way, with, who knows, some financial obligations involved. So, you know, I think it was extremely important that we were a member of this. Why we weren't considered alongside Erywash in the beginning, and indeed Amber Valley or other district and boroughs, I've no idea.
I'll let Tim respond.
I'll just come back on that a little bit. It is a common thing with county council policies that they choose one district council to represent us all, and that appears to be what's happened in relation to this strategy. So we are thankful it's been brought to the attention. We can do something about it, really.
But it's the usual reply, in a sense, isn't it, that Derbyshire Dales is primarily a rural constituency with very particular characteristics when it comes to its needs and demands for transport.
I think it's probably not surprising that Erywash didn't pick up on the rurality issues if they don't have the same issues as us.
Councillor Finesse.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Has he been moved?
You're about to, I gather.
Oh, yes, I am.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Very happy to move the recommendation. It's just one question I would ask. It's on Appendix 1, and it's the Partnership Working Group members. I'm surprised that our own Hall Leys bus company isn't amongst those. All the other bus companies you did mention, but you know, the local one isn't, and it provides so many services around here. Do they not want to be the partnership, or is that an error?
I'll talk to Steve about that and we'll see if we can weave that into the response.
Yeah, thank you.
And Councillor Tibbner, are you going to second?
I've got a point to make. Can I make?
You can, and you can second at the same time.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
May I refer to an email from a chairman of a village council in my area?
Yeah.
We're outraged to discover that the Service 65, operated by High Peak buses, was being cut from 7 services a day to 2, without any consultation. Decimation of a rural bus service is not acceptable. Can I put it on record, please? And I will.
Thank you. Councillor Finesse, what did you want to say?
Yeah, actually, I must correct you, because it's 8 services a day now.
I'm sorry.
It has actually increased.
So it's not down at 2?
No, it is at 8. And there are early morning buses to Sheffield and to Buxton. So 65 is actually a little bit better than it used to be.
Thank you.
But just point out that County Council put £65,000 into that service, you know, to keep it going. So hopefully, it's Stagecoach you've taken this on now. So hopefully, you know, they will keep it going. Thank you.
Have we got anyone else? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're now Doveridge, we're on to you now. Okay, folks, I'm very sorry you've had 2.5 hours of us before we get to you. That doesn't mean you're less important. You're far more important. Look at what you've done. Look at this wonderful report you've done. It's absolutely fantastic. So, sorry, Sandra, can you introduce it?
I can, Chair. Presenting this report on behalf of Steve Cates and his team, or particularly Mike Hayes and Tanya Roundtree, who are community planners of Doveridge, were very keen to praise their work, and I'm sure in return Tanya and Mike would want to thank the community planners of Doveridge for all their hard work in producing this piece of work. It's now got to the stage where there are no further steps to take. It's been through the referendum, and now Council has the pleasure of making this final decision to bring it into force. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Chair. As we can see, there's an enormous amount of work gone into this, so I'm very happy to move it as written. A couple of other comments. Refreshing, members, is it not, to see that colleagues from a parish council have made a 55-odd mile round trip on probably the hottest night of the year to come and say thank you to our colleagues, our officers. I'm very grateful. I'd like to extend my personal thanks to you. And also, I think Jackie Jew's hiding a light under their bush a little bit, because not only have they produced their own plan, they're actually reached out to neighbouring parishes, and have had meetings with 2 other parishes now who have adopted their model and are busy working on it. So I'd like to thank them on behalf of the members of the Norbury ward. And I'd like to also point out to you, with reference to a previous motion, that 3/4 of the representatives are women.
Councillor Donnelly.
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Councillor Martin Burford.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to endorse the congratulations to the group from Doveridge for this excellent, superb document, in fact. I think the research is excellent, the presentation is excellent, very informative photographs and plans inserted into the... I think they should be congratulated 10 times over. I think Doveridge is an ideal size of community for a plan of this kind, mainly because it's a rural area, but it's very close to other urban areas outside the district. So it has multifarious influences and implications, I think, for this village. And I think it's an ideal size of community, and it's got enormous development pressures, of course, given its location, as I've just said. So I think it's ideal for this sort of thing, and I think they need to be congratulated, as I say, 10 times over for such a superb document.
Councillor Mike Ratcliffe.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo comments that Councillor Burford has just made and join in the thanks to the team for having stuck it out and got the result that they have. If only all referendum results were so decisive. Well done.
What you're referring to,
I do remember
Ratcliffe.
speaking to Jackie back in 2015 and saying that you know, she had to prepare to travel a long, hard road, but they have stuck at it, and now they have this document in place, which is now, let's be clear, it's a document of legal quality. It's a very important document, despite its lower place in the planning hierarchy. All I would say to her now is, you and your team make sure that you monitor all planning applications to see that full recognition and acknowledgement is being paid to your document, because you know it is vital that it is properly used, and of course perhaps in the future you might like to consider reviewing it, but be prepared again perhaps for another hard slog. Yeah.
Well done.
Councillor Vanessa.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, my congratulations as well to the team for completing this. Ours was one of the first, and we completed about 2 years ago. You know, so we went through all that process, so I know exactly what you've been through. And there are times when you think, oh my goodness, we'll never complete it. You know, but it goes on and on. There's so much to get over. But having got it now, it certainly is worth something. And I noticed that I went through the National Park, obviously, because it isn't under this planning authority. But it certainly has affected applications that have gone through since. There's always reference to that. So you can be sure that, you know, what you've put in place will be listened to in that plan. Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, all those from Doveridge. Thank you very much. Safe trip home. Okay. It's 8:30. I need a mover to continue beyond 8:30. Thank you, Councillor Massey-Butler. Seconded by Tom Donnelly. All those in favour to continue? Thank you very much. We're on, I think, about 6th furlong out of 8. So, review of markets, stall markets, sorry. Ashley Watts, please.
Thank you, Chair. I don't really have much to add to the other than what's noted in the report, other than to ask that members approve the use of funds from the capital programme to support the project that was brought to committee in November regarding transfer of Wirksworth Market.
Councillor Mike Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to recommend that we move this recommendation, since it principally applies to Wirksworth Market, and just to comment that that relocation is proving a great success and working extremely well, and of course it's freed up the car park on a Tuesday for a little bit more revenue for this council. I know that within the body of the report there are some references to Ashbourne, so you know, colleagues over there may wish to pick up on that. But as it stands before you, for Wirksworth, I support and move it.
Can I have a seconder, please, Peter, Councillor Slack?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to echo what Councillor Radcliffe's already said. Wirksworth's doing fairly well at the moment. It's got the new area, and it's gained about another 6 stores in this last few weeks. So I know it's summer months and trade's busy at the moment, but it's an encouraging start. And of course, the marketplace is now used for parking. It would be an asset to businesses in Wirksworth and the market if 2-hour restriction was put on the marketplace, so we could turn vehicles more around, so we get more trade. So something for Ashley to think about. I think it would be an improvement, but yeah, seriously, it is doing well. It's disappointing that Ashburn is, I can remember Ashburn for many years, it used to be a thriving market, Ashburn, on a Saturday. Every store used to be full, there used to be people waiting for stores, and now it's going to the Civics Square. It's sad, isn't it, really, to see them. It's happening all over the country. Markets are disappearing, and as we've said before, internet shopping, out-of-town stores are really hitting us hard now.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Rose.
I just wanted to say briefly, Chairman, that I think Wirksworth is to be congratulated for setting examples, to rolling up their sleeves and getting things done. And this is just another instance of the things they do. So, you know, you have to have a pat on the back. They deserve a pat on the back. Well done, Wirksworth.
Right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Sealing of documents, Councillor Anne Elliott. Thank you very much. Councillor Chapman, second. All those in favour, please show. Okay. We now have item 21 to exclude the public and press, although there's only one member of the press still left. Good night. Good night, safe trip home, and thank you very much for coming. Okay, have a mover in, Councillor Rose. Seconder, Councillor Stevens. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. So that's 21. 22 committees. We've got to receive the exempt minutes of the committees shown below on the 7th of June and the 12th of July. Councillor Wild? Okay, Councillor Swindell?